in a way, we're talking about all this DEI stuff on the left. I think part of the frustration from all this with Trump is, it's kind of like the criticism of the woke right now, right? Is like Trump is, with this stuff with Israel, with the anti-Semitism. I know back when I don't know if this is still the case, but I remember back when the immigration stuff was really, starting to take off. He was deporting or at least trying to deport people for anti-Semitism. And it seems like it from an outsider perspective, it almost seems like no matter what side is driving, they're going to use these same tactics. So I think a lot of times it's hard for people to, either way, justify it, right? Or you'll find the people that will just go the opposite way and they'll find their own ways to justify it, right? But it is a really tricky situation.
It is, but I'll go on record for myself and say that I don't believe that any hate speech law is constitutional.
Yeah. Oh,
I,
no,
I,
not
I
at all.
don't care who you are professing hate for. It's protected speech. The Supreme Court has been pretty clear about that throughout precedent too. I will say one thing though about some of the deportation and the anti-Semitism. I will just say, like, I'm a recovering lawyer, I call myself, because I don't practice anymore. I'm done trying. But when you have a visa, there are certain conditions attached to that visa. And in general, any type of protest against our government is prohibited under the terms of most of these visas.
Oh, wow.
So
Okay.
now, there may have been some selective enforcement on that, and we could think about that. But it is the visa. The way to think about it, I think, is that unlike the rights that we as citizens have, a visa holder has privileges, which can be revoked for the violation of the rules under which they were issued. And I say that as someone who is a free speech absolutist.
Sure.
If you're a citizen and you're a Nazi, I will defend your right to espouse your views, even though I think they're really abhorrent and awful. But that's what our Constitution requires, and so I would do that. But if you are a visitor to our country who speaks of things that could be seditious or treasonous or anti the U.S. government, I would also support you not being here. So, I think that is a way to think of it. I I don't know exactly. Obviously the cases that you're referring to, we'd have to get into the details of what they
Sure.
were in order to say right or wrong. I just wanted to raise that as a point because I think it's something that isn't very well understood by a lot of people, that like when you're here under a certain type of visa, there are always conditions to that visa, and if you violate them, your visa gets revoked and you get deported. And you are not entitled in many cases to a due process hearing under those circumstances.
Sure. I guess my counter to that would be, I feel like it almost seems like when you're talking about these kind of things, it almost seems like you're kind of arguing the fine print. And you say you're a recovering lawyer. It's actually kind of funny you said that because both my parents were lawyers at one point, so I totally they're both recovering in a sense. I totally get that. So when you have that mind frame, I can see why you would come to that conclusion. But I guess from my standpoint, that almost just kind of seems like a way to, like, if you're gonna, yeah, I get that there are students from these other countries that are on visas and they don't necessarily have those rights. But I think it's also fair to say that they maybe would want to be U.S. citizens, but it's that same establishment that's, doing all these things to them that is not letting them do that. Or
And
maybe that's
I
inaccurate. I don't
do,
know.
I think, knowing your perspective, being a libertarian and now an anarchist, I'm not sure how you feel about borders in general
Mm,
and immigration laws in general. I kind of fall down on the side of, if we have laws and rules in place, as long as we equally apply them, I'm okay with that.
sure.
and then, we could work to change that. I also believe that, if you're coming to our country as a guest, you should follow our rules, and not work to undermine our country. But in the particular instances, I think that you were thinking of, I don't know for sure that I would support the action of the administration. I would also say that I'm not too keen on the fact that, we have masked people with no badges and no nothing grabbing people off the street. I'm 100% for enforcing our immigration laws, because I do believe, in the current global situation, we need to have borders, and we need to have, enforce the laws that we do have. I don't believe that our laws, I do believe our laws need to be changed. I think that we need some quicker routes to citizenship for people, and things like that. But in the meantime, it's really not fair to the people who are waiting in line and trying to play by the rules, for all these other people to be here. And then I also believe that, if you, again, if you want to come to the United States, I think you should at least believe in America. You should believe in our constitutional republic, and want to at least play by our rules.
Sure.
And so that's kind of where I come down on it.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, I definitely don't want to go down like an anarchist rabbit hole of all the different, where to go with that. But like, I mean, look, like with something like, like welfare to immigrants, like, yeah, I don't think that's a good idea. Like you're really, like, you're going to give like the, what people would view as like the most necessity, like the, you're at a desperate place, and you just kind of give that right off the bat to people who are just coming in. I mean, illegally, like people who are not, going those routes. Like, yeah, I can see that being not a great situation.